Borderlands 3 is a very different game when compared to Borderlands 2 in many ways. The most obvious of these ways is within its drop rates. In Borderlands 2, a world drop legendary was very rare and only ever happened once in a while, and when they did drop it felt special and, well, legendary. In Borderlands 3, however, world drops are not rare in the slightest, with world drops being so common that by the time you finish the story, your inventory is absolutely full of legendary weapons, grenades, and other gear. This has been a very big dividing factor for the fanbase, with many people praising the higher drop rates as essential to the game, and the other half of people saying that this high of a drop rate absolutely ruins the game. And although I can understand where this change could be a positive thing, in my opinion, it's more so just a band-aid for the bigger problem with Borderlands 3. Hey everyone, I'm Constant the Canadian, and this is Borderlands 3's drop rate problem. If you enjoy the video, be sure to leave a like and subscribe as it really helps out the channel. And if you really enjoy the video, then consider joining the membership program. 99 cents a month gets you a shoutout at the end of the video, as well as these cute emotes and awesome sub badges. And for $4.99 a month, you get all that, plus early access to all of my videos. The first major problem caused by the insane drop rates of Borderlands 3 is also one of the most subjective problems. And that is that legendary weapons no longer feel special. In every other Borderlands game, a legendary drop is special. It's a cool, once in a while thing that feels awesome when it happens. Getting a random legendary grenade from a red chest when you opened it on the way to the warrior felt so cool. And sure, in a lot of cases, legendary weapons weren't properly balanced at endgame, especially in Borderlands 2, but even still, they were super fun to find and collect. Fast forward to Borderlands 3, and suddenly, all you're seeing at endgame is legendary world drops. You kill a raid boss, legendaries. You kill a regular boss, legendaries. You kill a badass bandit, legendaries. You kill a regular bandit, legendaries. This completely removes any of the rewarding feeling of getting a legendary weapon. It's just expected. So much so that when you kill a boss and it doesn't drop legendaries, it feels more like there's a problem with the game than anything else. At Mayhem 11, legendary loot is more common than the common and very common rarities, and that just doesn't make any sense. Legendaries are supposed to be legendary, and when they drop as often as regular blue or purple weapons, they just don't. This issue is made even worse by the fact that some legendaries in this game absolutely shred, and then other legendaries can barely tickle the enemy. Which again is the case in pretty much every Borderlands game. It just doesn't make sense that the rarity that's supposed to be special and feel like a rewarding farm just doesn't. The weapon parts system in Borderlands games were amazing. Having the different stats of your weapons change with different grips, stocks, barrels, and accessories is a super cool concept and has been an iconic part of the Borderlands franchise since day one. There is nothing more satisfying in Borderlands 2 than finding that god roll purple weapon with a matching grip, stock, and barrel. It was just such an awesome experience each and every time it happened. With Borderlands 3, the weapon parts system did make a return, however it just isn't the same. I think a couple of things contributed to this dissatisfying of the weapon parts system. Firstly, for some reason, Gearbox decided to remove the tie-in to the manufacturers in Borderlands 3's part system. In Borderlands 2 and the pre-sequel, each weapon manufacturer had their own parts for the weapons they made. A shotgun could roll with a Jacob's grip, or a bandit grip, or a Tediore grip. This was honestly super awesome, and most every part actually visually represented the manufacturer it came from. This made learning the different weapon parts surprisingly straightforward. Fast forward now to Borderlands 3, and that identity is just gone. Weapon parts in Borderlands 3 just don't have an identity at all, being referred to as only Grip A or Stock 3, and it makes the whole system feel overall worse. Another major downfall of the parts system in Borderlands 3 is the addition and necessaryification of anointments on gear. I've made an entire video going into why I don't like anointments, but one of the most common complaints regarding the old Borderlands 2 era parts system was the fact that in most cases at max level OP 8 or 10, you needed to roll damn near perfect parts to deal any sort of damage. So rather than Gearbox addressing this by just toning back the weapon part importance and just making guns generally better, they did do that, but then they went and added a new anointment system, which is just another necessary endgame roll on your weapons, shields, and grenades. It just doesn't make any sense to ruin the once great and iconic part system from previous games just to replace it with another necessary endgame mechanic. The weapon part system is, for me, a large part of what made these games great, but the dumbing down of the part system in 3 and the introduction of anointments has pretty much ruined any satisfaction farming once gave me. One of the most painful items to farm in current day Borderlands 3 is by far class mods and artifacts. This is my biggest gripe with the game as it stands today. I can handle anointments being necessary in replacing weapon parts. I can handle endgame farming being dumbed down to get weapon, farm iridium, reroll, rinse and repeat. But the one thing that I absolutely cannot stand in Borderlands 3 is trying to farm any class mod or artifact. If you don't know, class mods and relics in Borderlands 2 in most cases didn't have any special effects in the way they do in Borderlands 3, but rather the special effects were the stat increases that they gave. This meant that if you got a Grenadier class mod for Axton, for example, it would always boost the same 1 to 3 skills and boost the same stats every time. Or if you got a Sheriff's Badge relic, it would always spawn with pistol damage, fire rate, and fight for your lifetime. This meant that when you were farming for a unique relic, you would always get something at least in the ballpark of what you wanted. In Borderlands 3, however, this is 100% not the case. While I do quite enjoy the special effects that legendary class mods and artifacts have in Borderlands 3, what I don't enjoy is the fact that they can roll with any passive stat. Well, not technically any, but class mods can spawn with 57 different passive stat bonuses. This makes farming for class mods an absolute slog. Provided you get a phase Zerker to drop, you have a 1 in 175,000 chance to get the correct passive stats you want. On the side of artifacts, for simply the passive stat roll, it's a 1 in 9,000 chance after getting it to drop. Add on to this trying to get a decent roll for the prefix, and now it's a 1 in 180,000 chance for the correct roll. This is by far the biggest problem with Borderlands 3's drop rates. The difference between the sheer variation in each and every drop is just insanely unrealistic. In Borderlands 2, legendary class mods have at most 25 different variations, and even accounting for the fact that items in Borderlands 2 can also drop up to 2 levels lower, this is still only a 1 in 75 chance when you get them to drop. As previously mentioned in Borderlands 3, getting a legendary even with the right stat rolls is a 1 in 175,000. This is an insanely large discrepancy. As for artifacts and relics, it does vary depending on the special effect, but we'll use the Bone of the Ancients, one of the most popular relics in the game, as an example here. A Bone of the Ancients has a 1 in 8 chance to drop from loot midgets, which have guaranteed spawn spots, after level 51. Upon dropping, it can roll with 8 different grades, which is essentially its quality, and then it's another 1 in 3 for the element to roll, and another 1 in 3 for the level to roll. For people doing the math at home, that's a 1 in 576 chance for the perfect roll. And while that may seem insanely high, in Borderlands 3, not even including the actual chance to drop, most legendary artifacts have a perfect rate of 1 in 180,000. Weapons at one point were equally as bad, with the game having 55 different anointments to sift through, but currently, for a legendary doll weapon, you have to roll a 1 in 12 for the element, a 1 in 3 for the firing modes, and another 1 in 55 for the anointment, equaling a final chance of 1 in 1,980. So if the weapon doesn't have any alternate firing modes or elements, that makes a perfect roll just a 1 in 55, not including weapon parts. This right here is why I call the anointment reroll machine a band-aid, because if Gearbox hadn't released a reroll machine, then there is no way that players would have been able to put up with the insane anointment grind in Borderlands 3. Now I can already see the comments, oh well the increased world drops fix the problem with these insane chances, but I really don't think they do. 95% of the time, world drop legendaries are just complete trash anyway. Sure, I could get a world drop icebreaker victory rush with the exact stat rolls I want, but the chances of that happening are astronomical, and more than likely I'm just gonna get another goddamn 10 gallon or elementalist. Realistically, all these increased drop rates do is increase the amount of garbage you have to filter through to see the actually good loot. Not to mention that these increased world drop rates do absolutely nothing for non-world drop items. Borderlands 3 went for the quantity over quality method for legendary gear farming, where rather than farming for something specific, you just farm aimlessly and hope for something good, and it just really doesn't sit right with me. But I'm curious to know what you think about this. Let me know in the comments down below. Thank you all so much for watching, have a fantastic day.